Have you ever felt like you're just constantly running on fumes? Like every Sunday afternoon, you just hit a wall, almost like a brain fog coma, before the sheer force of the week pulls you back into the grind. Or maybe that sacrificing sleep is just, well, the price of admission for success. If any of that sounds familiar, then you are definitely not alone, and you're in the right place. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your source material, strip away all the noise, and really extract the most important insights. Basically, we give you a shortcut to truly being well-informed. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really crucial white paper by Ginny Santos of Neolé. It's called Thriving Workplaces, Sleep, Stress, and Peak Performance. Now, this paper, it focuses specifically on Canadian workplaces in 2025, and it uncovers this critical, often hidden link between chronic stress, poor sleep, and, well, declining work performance. And it really drives home that this isn't just about personal well-being anymore. It's actually an urgent, tangible organizational risk. So we're going to unpack what 42 pretty candid interviews with HR and business leaders revealed. We'll align that with some stark statistical data and ultimately give you clear, actionable insights. Insights for creating healthier, higher-performing workplaces for yourself, and maybe for your team too. Get ready for some genuine aha moments, I think, that will absolutely reframe how you think about rest, recovery, and what true productivity actually looks like. Okay, so let's jump right into the heart of the problem. The source material highlights that, in 2025, chronic stress and this widespread sleep deprivation, they aren't just minor annoyances in Canadian companies. They are now the top drivers of things like absenteeism, burnout, and costly turnover. It seems pretty clear many leaders are realizing their existing wellness programs just aren't cutting it anymore.
That's absolutely right. The paper really zeroes in on what it calls the running on empty culture. Yeah. There's this pervasive, almost unspoken belief, especially it seems in North America, that working long hours, pushing past exhaustion, sacrificing sleep, it's treated like a badge of honor. Like it's a sign of your dedication, or maybe even this quiet competition to see who can survive on the least amount of rest. It's a culture that leaves people utterly drained. I mean, one interviewee put it so starkly, they said, every Sunday is like going into a coma. The week is all about keeping the ball in the air. It's exhausting.
Yeah, and another leader noted that after a certain point, it felt like all they did was work and sleep. The paper calls this an invisible drain because it silently erodes these critical capacities. It leads to poor decisions, impaired problem solving, widespread mood issues, and a real slump in innovation across teams. It's truly insidious,
Wow, that invisible drain concept.
Yeah.
That really hits home. So, okay, what does this pervasive exhaustion and stress actually cost organizations? Because these aren't just squishy feel-good issues, right? They translate into hard numbers. Absolutely, and the numbers are quite sobering. The undeniable insight here is that chronic stress and poor sleep aren't just HR problems. They're billion-dollar strategic financial drains for Canadian businesses. Productivity loss due to health issues, and that includes stress and mental health, it's escalated significantly since the pandemic. In 2022, Canadian employees, on average, lost 48 working days per year. 48 to absences and presenteeism.
Okay, and just to clarify, presenteeism, that's when you're physically at work, but your mind is elsewhere. Maybe you're sick or just burnt out and you're not really performing. You're present, but not productive. Is that it?
Exactly. You're there, but you're operating at maybe a fraction of your capacity. One analysis pegged this combined cost at a staggering $645 million annually for employers, and mental health-related absenteeism alone. That costs Canadian businesses an estimated $16.6 billion per year. It's just a huge drag on the economy. And the RAND Corporation, they're the nonprofit research group, they estimated that Canada loses about 78,000 working days annually just due to lack of sleep alone. People with chronic sleep difficulties are significantly more likely to miss work. Or, when they do show up, they operate at a much lower capacity.
Right.
And the cognitive decline is measurable too. A Canadian study found individuals sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night show measurable declines in attention, memory, and executive function. Think about that. Our ability to focus, recall information, make complex decisions, it all takes a hit.
Yeah.
Insomnia alone contributes to approximately 25% of the economic burden from workplace errors and safety incidents. And those risks are amplified in high-stakes industries where precision is absolutely critical.
Makes sense.
And this all leads directly to burnout and turnover. The report notes 40% of managers observe decreased productivity directly due to burnout, and over half of workers admit work stress caused them to just kind of check out. Driving home the point, a significant 43% of millennials have actually left a job because of burnout-related issues. It's a massive drain, both on human capital and, financial resources.
The paper makes a really compelling case for the business impact, definitely. But it also dives into something equally important, how this impacts our lives outside of work. It really is about the whole human, isn't it?
Precisely. The ripple effects are profound. They extend far beyond the office walls. Prolonged stress is linked to a whole host of health issues, from chronic headaches and fatigue to serious cardiovascular problems and a dramatically increased risk of chronic depression. Studies in Canada found that 36% of sleep-deprived adults suffer from chronic depression. Compare that to just 8.7% for well-rested individuals. That's a huge difference.
Huge.
There's even emerging evidence linking chronic sleep dysregulation and long-term stress to cognitive decline, like an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease down the line.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a toll on personal relationships. More than half of workers say work stress negatively affects their home or family life on a weekly basis. And 60% report job stress draining personal relationships. One leader shared, and this is quite poignant, "When I don't sleep, my mood and patience suffer. Brain fog hits. I see it in others too. Irritability, indecision. It's an epidemic we don't talk about enough."
Right.
It really bleeds into every aspect of life, impacting not just the individual, but their entire support system,
So, okay, we've painted a pretty clear picture of the problem and its staggering costs, but it's easy to point fingers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this entirely on individuals to just self-care their way out of burnout, or is there a bigger sort of systemic issue at play here? What does the paper reveal about the deeper roots of this crisis?
That's a crucial distinction, and the white paper really challenges that assumption head on. I mean, while it's true that unrealistic expectations from employers are a major factor, one leader described effectively doing the jobs of 3 people before finally resigning. The source material emphasizes it's not just one thing,
Right.
and it's certainly not just personal failure.
Right.
Modern life itself, it seems, tends to keep our bodies in this chronic fight, flight, or freeze mode. Think of it like this. Your sympathetic nervous system, that's our built-in alarm system, is constantly activated. It's like having your foot lightly pressed on the gas pedal, even when you're just sitting still. When this becomes the default state, our ability to truly recover and reset is, deeply compromised.
Oh.
And it's really a whole web of factors. Consider poor nutrition, inflammatory diets, lots of processed food, sugars. They weaken the gut-brain connection, cause systemic inflammation, keeping the body in this low-grade stress state. Then there's sedentary routines from long hours at desks that contribute subtle stress too. Over-reliance on devices, that blue light exposure after sunset. It overstimulates the brain, disrupts melatonin and our natural circadian rhythms. Social isolation, even if you don't consciously feel lonely, can make the nervous system perceive stress. Constant notifications create a sense of urgency that never really turns off. Even just the dramatic news cycles we're exposed to can elevate stress subconsciously.
It all adds up.
It really does. And what's truly surprising in the paper is this concept of vicarious trauma. We often associate this with social workers, first responders, maybe healthcare professionals. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
But the paper shows it's now affecting IT support teams and customer service professionals. Think about it. These roles involve constantly absorbing the stress, the frustration, often the crisis-level situations of others, even through a screen or over the phone.
Yeah.
And without specific emotional resilience training to kind of process that absorbed energy, it takes a real toll.
Wow, that's an angle I hadn't considered. So it's not just one thing, it's this whole interconnected web of daily habits and systemic pressures that are subtly keeping our bodies in fight or flight. That really paints a comprehensive picture. And the paper also points out some common mistakes organizations make, right? Even when they have good intentions, when they try to address this. What are some of these pitfalls?
Yes. The source identifies 5 common mistakes. The first one is what they call the individualism bias. This is the belief that well-being is solely the individual's responsibility. The paper quotes a leader saying, "They offered sessions on mindfulness and how to detach when taking vacation, but it was nearly impossible to attend due to workload." In some corporate cultures, having self-care needs is even subtly, or maybe not so subtly, seen as a weakness.
Right, like you're not tough enough.
Exactly. Second is reactivity versus proactivity. Many organizations rely on Band-Aid solutions, like just offering sick leave to address immediate problems, instead of focusing on prevention. This contrasts sharply with the successful proactive example they cited. A team that actively used a wellness app with sleeve challenges and rewards. And the key was, it was a success because they agreed to use it as a team. It fostered collective buy-in and shared accountability.
Interesting. Team approach.
The third mistake is having a narrow view of well-being. The focus often started with just physical safety, then it expanded to mental health, which is absolutely crucial, of course.
Right.
But a truly holistic approach recognizes four equally important interconnected areas. There's emotional well-being, navigating highs and lows, regulating your nervous system, physical well-being, energy, resilience to illness, so nutrition, movement, sleep, safety. Then intellectual well-being, engagement, purpose, learning, feeling challenged. And finally, social well-being. Things like psychological safety, belonging, aligned values, and where diversity is genuinely celebrated, not just talked about.
That's a much broader definition than we usually hear.
It is. Fourth, we see distorted priorities. In this relentless quest for productivity and profit, well-being often takes a back seat. And this is despite research proving that prioritizing well-being actually increases overall productivity, improves quality of work, and significantly reduces costs like turnover and absenteeism. It's really a win-win, but often treated as a zero-sum game.
Yeah, the classic short-term versus long-term view.
Precisely. And finally, the fifth mistake is the one-size-fits-all approach. Assuming a single wellness program works for everyone, ignoring individual needs or specific team contexts, it's a common error. That successful team-specific wellness app we mentioned earlier really highlights why a tailored, inclusive approach is so much more effective.
Okay, so given these pervasive problems and the mistakes organizations often make, it begs the question, what is working? The paper highlights some truly inspiring superstars and role models who seem to be turning this around. Let's dive into what they're actually doing differently.
Yeah, the interview shared some incredibly practical lived experiences. For protecting sleep quality, for instance, leaders are genuinely prioritizing sleep. One interviewee from China observed that in her home country, getting enough sleep is a priority to live longer, which, as she noted, contrasts sharply with North American norms where late nights are often admired, almost like a status symbol.
Right, the hustle culture badge.
Exactly. Mindful bedtime routines came up as key. Things like reading fiction before 10 p.m., committing to no work calls during the commute, and for remote workers, actually shutting devices down completely by 5 p.m. Digital hygiene, like using phone filters after sunset to reduce blue light exposure, was also mentioned. Some people track their sleep data. One person noticed a direct link between late bedtimes and getting migraines.
Oh, interesting data point.
Yeah. Other habits mentioned include things like intermittent fasting and avoiding alcohol for better sleep quality. And some really forward-thinking organizations are even introducing workplace nap pods or rest zones. Wellness rooms with yoga mats, fidget toys, puzzles, places that signal recovery time is actually valued.
That sounds amazing. What about preventing stress?
Right, for preventing chronic stress and practicing self-care, setting clear boundaries is huge. One leader stated simply, "I won't lose sleep over it," which is a powerful stance. Others make a point to turn off work notifications completely during their downtime. The report stresses the need for early signal detection, not just waiting until someone needs an EAP referral, but proactively identifying signs of strain in people. Physical activity is another big factor. Some companies have on-site fitness facilities, or they organize sports teams. Some even integrate short dance breaks into long meetings, which sounds fun. A dance break, I like it. Me too. Stretching, walking, deep breathing are also cited, and one company apparently equipped everyone with sit-stand desks. Little things add up. Nervous system regulation through somatic stress relief exercises is gaining traction. This is the understanding that our bodies hold on to stress physically, and we need practices to actually release it. It's an important insight, especially as leaders realize they are often, as one person put it, thrown into leadership roles without preparation. They need the capacity to manage stress, not just abstract management skills.
That makes so much sense. Capacity, not just skills.
Exactly. And work-life balance is being fiercely protected by some. Through strict time boundaries, having separate physical spaces for work versus non-work, even if working from home, and intentionally mentally and emotionally disconnecting. One global team leader put it powerfully, "I'm not a machine running on replaceable batteries. I need to disconnect emotionally too." Some organizations are even instituting unplug days, where detachment is fully respected and encouraged by the culture.
Unplug days. That's a commitment.
It really is. For mental health and emotional resilience, generous employee assistance programs are common, along with wellness budgets. These apparently range from $1,000 to even $10,000 per year for discretionary use on things that support well-being. Some companies keep lifestyle coaches on retainer. A powerful personal story came from a leader who said, "Now I know my limits, and I actually bring more value in a focused 8-hour day because I'm rested and clear." That really flips the script on long hours equaling more value. Mindful eating and nutritional support also play a critical role. One leader talked about learning to distinguish real from fake hunger, which led to steadier energy and better sleep. This contrasts sharply with typical office cultures where, as they put it, coffee machines are well used as a substitute for real energy. Dietary shifts like reducing simple carbs, increasing fiber, adding mineral supplements were also noted as contributing to better energy regulation and sleep.
Okay, so nutrition's a piece too.
Definitely. And finally, building truly supportive workplace cultures is vital. This includes leadership modeling the behavior CEOs openly sharing their own self-care habits. It involves empathetic observation by HR leaders, noticing subtle shifts like a normally talkative person suddenly going quiet, acting as an early warning sign. Community and connection are fostered through simple things like birthday parties, happy hours, team sports, and importantly, acknowledging people's personal support networks, like their spouses or families. And generous time off is a differentiator. One company offers over 100 sick days per year, emphasizing trust. A leader there noted, "Our sick days are discretionary. We don't ask if it's mental health or anything. We trust our people." That trust piece is huge.
Wow, over 100 sick days, that is trust. It sounds like the key really is moving from this idea of self-care as an individual burden to it being a collective cultural responsibility supported from the top down. We've discussed various ways to regulate the nervous system and build resilience. Now, the paper also looks at the cutting edge of this, literally upgrading your brain's hardware through some groundbreaking approaches like neurofeedback and neurotraining. This next part sounds truly fascinating.
It really is. The white paper highlights neurofeedback and neurotraining as promising frontiers in achieving sustainable high performance. Imagine your brain like an orchestra. Sometimes certain sections might be playing too loud or maybe they're out of tune, creating mental noise or static. Neurofeedback is a science-based process. It uses real-time brainwave data, typically gathered via EEG sensors, to essentially show you what your brain is doing. And then, through feedback like sounds or visuals, it helps you learn to self-regulate it. It's kind of like getting a conductor for your brain, teaching it to play more harmoniously. Neurotraining then builds on this with structured, brain-based exercises designed to improve things like cognitive flexibility, reduce mental fatigue, and enhance focus and resilience over time.
Okay, so you're literally training your brainwaves.
In a way, yes. You're learning to guide them into more optimal patterns. For professionals, the benefits are potentially profound. It can help quiet an overactive brain, the kind that fuels overthinking and anxiety. It can improve deep, restorative sleep by calming hyperarousal in the nervous system. It can sharpen focus and concentration, which is crucial for high-pressure decision-making. And it can help people access those creative flow states more reliably. It helps develop what experts are starting to call a non-anxious presence. That's that ability to remain calm, confident, and grounded even when everything around you feels chaotic. It lets you make clear, strategic decisions rather than just reacting impulsively.
A non-anxious presence. I like that term.
Me too. The analogy here is pretty clear. Just as elite athletes train their bodies relentlessly to perform at their peak, high-performing leaders are beginning to train their minds for what's being called mental fitness. And the potential organizational return is significant. You can see greater innovation, stronger collaboration, sharper decision-making across the board, and ultimately just healthier, more resilient humans doing the work.
It makes sense. Train the brain like a muscle.
Exactly. Ultimately, the organizations that truly embed wellness into their leadership DNA and their everyday workplace culture, they're the ones who will see tangible, undeniable benefits. This includes higher engagement, enhanced creativity, stronger problem-solving capacity. They'll likely experience significantly lower absenteeism and health-related costs. They'll see stronger leadership retention and morale, and safer workplaces with fewer stress-related errors or incidents. And according to research from McKinsey's Health Institute, these companies may even see improved performance in the stock market over the long run.
So if you had to boil it all down, what's the ultimate bottom line here? What's the core message the paper really wants us to walk away with?
The core message is crystal clear and really quite simple. Performance cannot be sustained without rest. Full stop. Wellness isn't just a perk. It's not a nice to have. It's a strategic imperative that directly fuels productivity. And absolutely crucial to making this shift is brave leadership leaders who are willing to model wellness, not just talk about it or delegate it to HR.
Walking the talk.
Precisely. Now, challenges remain, of course, especially in changing these deeply entrenched cultures of overwork and that underlying presumption that self-care is solely an individual's responsibility when we know it's so heavily influenced by the workplace culture itself. But the paper suggests powerful ways forward. Instead of just rolling out another one-size-fits-all program, it encourages approaches like team brainstorming sessions, maybe using a prompt like, what are all the workplace practices and habits we could try out as a team that would enable your high performance while also improving your overall well-being? That kind of approach builds ownership, and it moves the needle in a truly impactful, sustainable way.
We've taken a pretty comprehensive look today at how chronic stress and poor sleep are actively eroding our capacity to be our best. But importantly, we've also mapped out a clear path forward. And that path, it seems, is built through intentional leadership and a really holistic, integrated approach to well-being. The powerful truth revealed in this deep dive is that the solution isn't more hustle, it's smarter, more intentional recovery. This deep dive truly reveals that genuine high performance, the kind that's sustainable and leads to breakthrough results, is only possible when it's deeply rooted in rest and comprehensive well-being. So maybe a final thought for you listening. What would it look like to shift from viewing self-care as a luxury, a nice to have after everything else is done, to recognizing it as perhaps your single most powerful strategic advantage, both for your own life and maybe for the people and the teams around you?